and welcome to my part of the buddy read that I'm doing with Ben Long from Reading Vicariously for this lovely book, Tome by Ross Jeffrey. Now, you may well have seen this cover and you may well have heard a lot about this because it's getting an awful lot of traction over on Twitter and Bookstagram especially, and a lot of reviewers have been giving it 5 stars. So this book had piqued my interest before the 5-star reviews started coming out, mainly because I'm lucky enough to know Ross. He doesn't live too far away from me, and I'd wanted to read Juniper anyway. And then when he told me about this, which he said was set in the Juniper world, except that this is set in Juniper Correctional Facility, so in a prison, I thought to myself, I need to read this. I don't know if it's the ex-cop in me, but I like things about prisons, Shawshank, sleepers, all that kind of stuff. I've watched a couple of review videos about this, and I can understand when people are saying it is a definite 5-star, but it's hard to put into words exactly why, because it gives you so many feelings, and a lot of the feelings that it gives you is just absolute rage. There are some characters in this who are utterly vile, despicable, nastiest people in existence. There is a hell of a lot of racism in this book. And having not read Juniper, I believe that is part of the town's makeup and what the characters that live in this despicable place are like. So don't get me wrong, the book is not racist. Ross has not written it to be glorified or anything like that. In fact, he is showing us that these despicable, awful people exist, whether we would like to believe that or not, and then things happen to them. I was definitely moved by it. Obviously I am white, but my stepdad is black. So racism has a actual personal impact on my life as well. And there were parts that made me extremely uncomfortable, but they were done in a way that just made the characters what they are. They needed that level of just despicableness to make you hate them even more. Obviously it's set in a prison, so therefore the characters both sides of the bars are just the absolute scourge of society anyway. I likened this to something that King would write, and I don't say that just because of things like Shawshank or The Green Mile or anything like that. It's the whole way that the characters are written. It's very character driven. And that's got that small town setting like Castle Rock and Place in Derry and all of that kind of thing. There's a lot that if you didn't know, you could easily have put King's name to this, I think, and that's obviously a massive kudos to Ross for being able to do that. And that doesn't imply that he's taken any of King's style and copied it or anything like that, not in the slightest. Perhaps as a unconscious homage to King within the writing, but apart from that, this is very much Ross's own stamp on the horror genre. It is horror, so not only is the racism within the characters horrific for real life awfulness, there's other stuff within it as well which sets it firmly within the cosmic horror subgenre. And the stuff that goes with it, again, very King-esque and just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. There's a kind of a cursed object involved that moves about within the prison, and that's about as much as I'll go into, but it's just, it's page turning, it's riveting. I was gripped. I read this in, and it's a hefty old book. I read it in just a few days because I wanted to get to know what was going to happen. Right from the first page, you're sucked in. It is gritty, it is grim, it is violent, and that's all the things I like. There's a lots of adult content and adult language, but it's all for the story. Ross is British, like me, but I don't think that comes across in his writing. I will be interested to see what Ben says about that, obviously, as Ben is American, but I wouldn't have picked up anything that made me think it sounded like it was a Brit using an American voice. I thought he did really well. So, do I have any complaints about this book? No complaints. I absolutely loved it. It's 5-star all the way for me. So much so that it has definitely fallen in my top 10 books of the year, and it could squeeze its way into the top 5, I'm thinking. Yeah. So everything that you see on Twitter with people raving about it, it built my anticipation more, and I'm really, really pleased to say that it exceeded expectations. I have Juniper. Both of these are beautiful signed copies as well that Ross, if I can get to it, signed for me. They are absolutely wonderful, and I shall be reading Juniper very soon as well. So that's my waffly 5-star part, and I will hand you over to the lovely Ben. Thank you.
Hey guys, my name is Ben, also known as Reading Vicariously, and today I'm going to be reviewing the book Tome by Ross Jeffrey. I'll try to show you a picture of the cover right there, Tome. And first of all, I wanted to thank Janine for having me on her channel, and also for doing this buddy read with me. It was a really good time, and I look forward to doing future ones with her. And also thank you to Ross for sending me a digital copy of the book so that I could do the buddy read. So thank you very much, Ross. All right, guys, so I had a hard time putting together my review for this. I think I might have stated it a little bit more eloquently in my written review, which I encourage you guys to go check out. readingvicariously.net is my blog. And I'm a much better writer than speaker, so apologies in advance. But the reason I had a hard time writing this review is because I was trying to figure out the right way to say that this book is distressing and bleak and gloomy and disgusting and disturbing, but I also really, really enjoyed it. And it's that contradiction is interesting, but the reason that it's all of those negative things, disturbing and gloomy and dark, is because of the characters and the subject matter. There is pretty much not a single good character in this book, except maybe the prison guard Frank. He's kind of a slim beacon of light and hope in the story. But pretty much everybody else is corrupt and vile and evil. So populating a story full of characters like that, it's a lot to get through. And the story itself has a lot of heavy scenes and moments. There's a lot of prevalent racism throughout the story, scenes of rape and disgusting violence and gore and all of that, which, I don't like reading those things to some extent, just because of how intense they are. But if you're going to have those kind of, shocking elements in a story, those kind of heavy things, then they need to have a purpose and they need to have substance. And thankfully, they have those things. And so, even though there were moments when I had to put the book down just because it was so distressing, at certain moments and scenes and events in the story, I had to set it aside. I was still very eager to jump back in every time I picked it back up. And, the story being set in this fictional town of Juniper, and which I believe the author has written a previous book about and is going to write future stories all set around this town. And this particular story, Tome, is set mostly in the Juniper Correctional Facility, which I really like when stories kind of have this singular setting that we can get into. And this one in particular, I feel like, being trapped in the prison with these corrupt guards and these awful inmates and this dark force that is kind of going around, feeling like I was confined there with them, was very upsetting, and I think it worked well for the mood of the story. And also the writing is just amazing in this. And I think that's another thing that helps despite the bleakness of the story and all of the awful, atrocious things that happen in it, and all of these god awful characters, the writing really carries it. The story is interesting, it's compelling, it has twists and turns that I didn't expect. And, the characters themselves, even though they are just awful, they still are multifaceted, they're dynamic. They're more than just one-sided flat depictions of evil, and I really appreciated Ross doing that. As much as I hated the warden, and I really did, I liked that we got a lot of chapters from his perspective and kind of, his thoughts and motivations and everything. And so, great characters, great story, and just the writing as well. Like the descriptive imagery is so powerful and vivid and evocative. I mean, I really felt like I was right there in the grimy, decaying, decrepit prison. I was, with the scenes with the warden, I was smelling his sweat and cigarette smoke and whiskey breath and all those, disgusting things. I didn't want to be there. But I felt like I was, and that's, credit to Ross and his ability in the writing is to really, make me feel those things and smell those things and see those things in the story. And again, for a lot of it, I didn't really want to, not because it wasn't good, but just because of the nature of what it was. And those were the moments that I had to put the book down for a little bit. But, overall, I apologize. I'm being light on the plot because I'm really not trying to spoil too much for you, because this is certainly a book that is best going into without any kind of really knowledge of it and expectations, other than me telling you over and over how dark and heavy it is, because it is, but it's also very, very good. It reminds me a lot of David Fincher, his movie, especially like Seven, that is just a very bleak, violent movie, but it's also very good. And also, the writing of Cormac McCarthy and, his characters. It doesn't have a lot of good characters in his stories. He also has a very kind of cynical outlook, but it's also very well written and the stories are great. So, Ross, you're like a David Fincher and Cormac McCarthy put together. I hope that's okay. But anyways, guys, check out this book. It's 5 stars from me. If you couldn't tell from this review, maybe go check out the one I wrote because I might have said it a little bit better. And thank you again to Ross for sending the book. Thank you again to Janine for having me on her channel. And I look forward to interacting more with everybody online. Take care, guys. Thanks.